Pakistan-occupied Kashmir has erupted again. For years, Pakistan has projected itself as the defender of Kashmiri rights on the global stage. It has repeatedly accused India of suppressing democratic freedoms in Jammu and Kashmir. But today, the spotlight has shifted dramatically. Because the most intense protests in Kashmir are not happening in Srinagar. They are happening in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. And the scale of the unrest has become impossible to ignore. In the last few days, PoK has witnessed some of the largest anti-government demonstrations in recent years. Reports indicate that nearly 30 civilians have been killed, hundreds have been injured, and up to 1,000 people have been detained after Pakistani security forces launched a crackdown against protesters associated with the Joint Awami Action Committee, popularly known as JAAC. Internet restrictions, arrests, sedition charges, anti-terror provisions, and even bounties on protest leaders have followed. Amnesty International and several international observers have expressed concerns regarding the heavy-handed response. But this is not merely a law and order issue. For UPSC aspirants and students of international relations, these protests reveal something much deeper: the growing crisis of political legitimacy in territories under Pakistan's illegal occupation. Now let me explain and understand this in detail. The immediate trigger behind the protests is a controversial decision regarding representation in the Legislative Assembly of PoK. Under the PoK constitutional framework, 12 seats are reserved for migrants from the erstwhile princely state of Jammu and Kashmir who are now settled in different parts of Pakistan, including Punjab and Sindh. The problem, according to local residents, is that some of these representatives are elected outside PoK and are often seen as instruments through which Islamabad influences the local assembly. Apart from these 12, 5 seats are reserved for women, 1 for religious ulemas, 1 for Kashmiris living overseas, and 1 for technocrats. So in a house of 53, PoK voter elects only 33 people. However, local opposition is more focused on the 12 migrant reservations, as they feel that people with no connection to PoK get elected to these seats. So long story short, local residents argue that a significant portion of the assembly is controlled by actors who neither live in PoK nor are accountable to its voters. The issue reached a boiling point after the PoK Supreme Court ruled that these seats enjoy constitutional protection and cannot be abolished without a constitutional amendment. This verdict triggered widespread anger and became the catalyst for the latest demonstrations. However, focusing only on the seat controversy would be a big mistake because the roots of these protests go much deeper. Now, before we explore this issue further, I have an important announcement for UPSC aspirants. If you are preparing for 2027 attempt or beyond, then understanding such complex topics on your own might be challenging. But with Unacademy IAS English, you can make this preparation journey easier, structured, and more disciplined. Now you have a great opportunity to enroll into our new batch at a discounted price. This subscription gives you access to all our live and recorded lectures by our top educators along with the study material, prelims and mains practice tests, and one-on-one mentorship with our expert mentors. If interested, enroll using the link provided in the description. And to avail the discount, you have to enter the code IAS English. Now coming back to our discussion, the protests in PoK actually began in 2023 around economic grievances. Residents complained about rising electricity tariffs despite the fact that PoK hosts major hydro infrastructure projects, particularly the Mangla Dam. Many locals argue that while their communities were displaced for national development projects, they continue to receive little benefit and still pay high electricity prices. Alongside this came complaints regarding inflation, shortages of subsidized wheat, unemployment, underdevelopment, and the perception that local resources are being exploited without corresponding benefits to the local population. In many ways, this resembles a classic center-periphery conflict. The people of PoK increasingly feel that decisions affecting their lives are not taken in Muzaffarabad, but in Islamabad and Rawalpindi. At the center of this movement is the Joint Awami Action Committee or JAAC. Contrary to official Pakistani narratives that now portray it as a security threat, JAAC emerged as a broad coalition of traders, lawyers, professionals, transport unions, and civil society groups. Its demands were initially economic and governance oriented. In fact, Pakistan's own authorities previously negotiated with JAAC and reportedly accepted most of its 38-point charter. Yet, the issues of political representation and constitutional reform remain unresolved. This is precisely why the recent ban on JAAC is significant. When governments shift from negotiation to criminalization, it often indicates that a movement has begun challenging deeper structures of power. The declaration of JAAC as an unlawful organization under anti-terror laws has therefore transformed a socio-economic protest into a broader political confrontation. Also, look at the irony here. A country which doesn't enforce its anti-terror laws against UN-designated global terrorists is now labeling civil society groups and political groups as terror organizations under the same law. Now comes perhaps the most interesting geopolitical question. Is Pakistan considering an India-like Article 370 move of its own? Several Pakistani commentators and regional analysts have raised concerns regarding Article 56 of the interim constitution of PoK. Article 56 grants the federal government in Islamabad sweeping powers over elected institutions. Under this provision, Pakistan can dismiss the elected PoK government and even dissolve the PoK Legislative Assembly. Following India's abrogation of Article 370 in 2019, there were periodic discussions within Pakistan about more formally integrating PoK and Gilgit-Baltistan into the Pakistani constitutional structure. Today, as political unrest grows, there are growing concerns that Islamabad may use constitutional mechanisms to tighten federal control rather than expand local autonomy. Whether such a move actually occurs remains uncertain. However, the very existence of this debate is quite revealing. For decades, Pakistan has presented PoK as an example of self-governance and self-determination. Yet, increasing demands for direct intervention expose the contradiction between the narrative that Pakistan has built and political realities on the ground. India has, of course, reacted sharply to the violence. The Ministry of External Affairs condemned what it described as severe police brutality against protesters and called upon the international community to hold Pakistan accountable for human rights abuses in territories under its illegal occupation. This response is strategically significant. For years, Pakistan has attempted to internationalize developments in Jammu and Kashmir. Now India is reversing the narrative by highlighting democratic deficits, political repression, and governance failures in Pakistan-occupied territories. From a diplomatic perspective, New Delhi sees these protests as evidence that Pakistan's Kashmir policy suffers from a credibility problem. The developments also bring renewed attention to Gilgit-Baltistan. This region too forms part of the former princely state of Jammu and Kashmir and remains under Pakistan's illegal occupation. Gilgit-Baltistan does not enjoy even the limited constitutional structure that's available in PoK. Its political status remains ambiguous. Pakistan has repeatedly stopped short of making it a full province because doing so could weaken its long-standing position that the entire Kashmir issue remains unresolved. As a result, residents often find themselves trapped in a constitutional limbo. The region has witnessed repeated protests over political representation, resource control, sectarian discrimination, and economic marginalization. Recent elections there have also attracted allegations of interference and manipulation. So for India, the issue has an additional dimension. The strategically important China-Pakistan economic corridor passes through Gilgit-Baltistan, which India considers to be an integral part of its territorial sovereignty. This gives the region enormous geopolitical significance beyond the Kashmir dispute itself. What makes the current situation particularly important is that it fits into a broader pattern visible across Pakistan. Whether we look at Balochistan or the tribal belt in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or Sindh or Gilgit-Baltistan, a common theme emerges. Communities often complain of centralized control, resource extraction, political marginalization, enforced disappearances, restrictions on dissent, and excessive use of security laws. Human rights organizations have repeatedly raised concerns regarding enforced disappearances in Balochistan and restrictions on civil liberties in several frontier regions. The PoK protests, therefore, should not be viewed as an isolated incident. They are part of a larger debate about federalism, representation, and state legitimacy within Pakistan. So, what is the larger takeaway? For UPSC aspirants, these protests are not simply another episode of Pakistan as a failed state. They actually reveal three important realities. First, economic grievances often evolve into political movements when questions of representation remain unresolved. Second, legitimacy cannot be sustained through security measures alone. Long-term stability requires genuine political participation and accountable governance. And third, Pakistan has long argued that Kashmir is fundamentally a question of self-determination. But the irony today is that many protesters in PoK are demanding precisely that. They want greater control over their own political future, their resources, and their representation. So what do you think? Is this an opportunity for India to step up pressure on Pakistan? And what options does India have to corner Pakistan and its failures? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this analysis to be useful, do subscribe to our channel for more such interesting content. Thanks for watching.